Hi, I'm Shannon Rollins with Shannon Rollins Real Estate, and today I'm going to talk about how the National Association of Realtors settlement that goes into effect mid-year is going to affect buyer agents and listing agents. Okay, today and in the past, what has happened when a listing agent goes and gets paperwork signed with the seller, it already includes what that buyer agent fee that will be paid if a buyer agent brings an offer on a house that's acceptable to the seller. That fee will no longer be included in the listing contract. It will no longer advertise in the MLS to say this is the fee that will be paid to the buyer agent. So now when a buyer calls an agent and says, will you show me a house? When this change goes into effect, the buyer agent must have a buyer agency agreement contract signed with the buyer prior to showing houses, just like the listing agent has a listing contract signed with the seller prior to listing the home. And in that buyer agency contract, it's going to indicate what the agent will be paid, when, and how much. So this is a big change because in the past, a buyer could call any agent, an agent would agree to show a house because they knew there was already a contract in place with the listing agent as to what they would be paid if they brought a contract on that house. Now, there's probably 2,000 agents in the CSRA, and I can guarantee you they are not volunteers, they don't work for free, and they need to get this buyer agency agreement signed now by law prior to showing homes. So this is a big change. But what we think is going to happen is that sellers are still going to budget in their mind when they meet with their listing agent as to what they might have to pay for the buyer agent on behalf of the buyer should they bring them a contract. And the reason being is that there's probably 85% of the buyers in our market get loans. They have to bring their down payment for their loan type. They have to bring the closing costs to pay the lender for that loan. Most buyers don't have additional cash to then also pay the buyer agent. And so then if a seller is going to have their house seen by the majority of the buyers out there, because remember 85% get loans, they're going to need to go ahead and budget to pay that fee on behalf of the buyer. Otherwise, the buyer is going to say to the buyer agent, I can only look at homes where the seller is still willing to pay that buyer agent fee on behalf of the buyer. So the buyer agent has to call the listing agent to find out which sellers are willing to pay that fee. And those are the houses they're going to look at. And a smart seller wants their house to be looked at, so they're probably going to budget for that fee to be paid, even though it's not in the listing agreement. At Shannon Rollins Real Estate, this is not going to be a big change for us. Our agents have been talking about buyer agency contracts for years and talking about with their buyers what they're going to do for them from beginning to end, all the way through the closing process. There's a lot of steps involved. Now, there are like over 2,000 agents within the CSRA. Many of them are hobbyists or weekenders, nighttime showers, that really are not full-time experienced agents. Our agents are full-time experienced agents. They must go through an extensive training program, a mentorship before they can even work with our clients. In addition to that, we require them to have 80 hours of continuing education every single year. Most agents only are required to have 12 hours of continuing education because that's all that's required by law. So you want to be sure you're selecting somebody that really can do you justice. So many times buyers get into contracts with agents that they really were not happy with because they didn't really think through the process and how important it was to have a really good experienced agent representing you as the buyer. If you have questions about this, give me a call, send me a text, send me an email. I'd be glad to answer it. But remember, my team and I are on standby 7 days a week, ready to help you take the smoother road to sold.